Pre-season is heating up, so we thought we'd get round the table and discuss it. 20-minute Tims, I'm Jamie, joined by Stephen and Melly. Stephen, it's you said to me earlier on today in our group chat, there is a tiered system to these pre-season games and to pre-season. Some of them are a bit worthless. Some of them are glorified training sessions, let's be perfectly honest. But some of the games are actually a bit more meaningful as the squad try and ramp up towards what reflects probably more what the actual season stuff is. And I think we're getting into that with, depending on when you're listening to this, Sporting Lisbon tomorrow, and then the coveted Adidas Cup on at the weekend against Newcastle. Those are two big teams that we're playing.
Then it's off to Como at one point, isn't it? Yeah, as well, to go and meet the rat that is Nicholas Kuhn, who's scurried off since the last time we all recorded together as well. But are we saying that we're about to enter the business end of pre-season?
It's proper pre-season now, isn't it? That's what it is.
Yeah, of course. I think you're right. I think you're right to say that I'm right from earlier about there being a tiered system for pre-season, because I don't really pay attention to the first couple. I think it only takes looking at the fixtures to see that there is an escalation in the difficulty level of the pre-season, and there is always a point where it crosses over into stopping the purely getting minutes in the legs exercise, and you cross into, right, this is practicing for the season that's coming. Because I know that people often say that all of pre-season is just about fitness, but that's kind of illogical, because at some point you need to do the experimentation, you need to work on things, you need to put your system together. If, for example, you were to lose 2-0 to Ajax coming up, there's a big difference between losing 2-0 because you took off all your important players and you end up with a B team playing at the end, and losing 2-0 because your system's completely incoherent and there's miles between your centre halves and there's a big gap in midfield and you just fell apart tactically. So these are the times to work on that. So I'm looking forward to getting into the proper games, because I think that's where we'll not necessarily
we'll draw some conclusions, won't we?
Yeah. I think that's when you can form opinions, because we vowed long ago to stop reacting to these virtually unbroadcastable friendlies that they put on. I get.
To be honest, you probably
TV
could broadcast them if you weren't standing just at the side of the pitch on an iPhone 3G or whatever Celtic TV are using.
And I know why Celtic do it. They try to get a bit of sort of fan momentum going and their hashtag and everything.
No, they don't, Stephen. They just want you to pay for Celtic TV. They
well, there we go. Yeah, true. Yeah, momentum that convinces you to part with your money for Celtic TV. Yeah. So I understand why they do it, but in years gone by, these games would be played behind closed doors and you wouldn't hear about them. But when you start to get into the hashtag glamour friendlies, starting with Sporting Club de Portugal, I think that's where we'll start to not be able to draw lasting conclusions, but we'll start to learn things about where this team's going. Yeah.
Melly, are you feeling a wee bit disappointed that there's not been more new arrivals involved in these games so far?
Yeah, I think so. The first couple of games are just non-events, aren't they? You wait for it, and then first game Celtic back, and then it's B team players that are littered amongst it, and you go, why?
Can't
why
believe
do
you're
this?
describing the Cork Cup like this, the Cork Super Cup.
Yes.
Entitled Neds yet again. You know nothing but success, and you're just dismissing trophies.
Somebody in the Discord was on the Celtic Park tour, I think today, and they posted a picture, and Celtic have put the Cork Super Cup in the trophy cabinet next to the League Cup and the titles,
Right.
so it kind of looks like the treble. That's the real treble.
Yeah.
We need to maybe share that picture. And by the way, if you want involved in Discord, you know where to find it, patreon.com/20minute Tims. But yeah, Melly, sorry, on you go.
Oh no, it's just, and then I got to the weekend game there, and it just so happened I was on the way back from Manchester, so I put it on the train trying to watch it. I was watching this grainy footage on Celtic TV, and then got near half time, and Celtic concede a penalty and a goal from a corner. I was like, what am I doing here? There is no good coming of this. And they're sort of heating up now, because you've seen Kieran Tierney play, we've seen Negrin play, a wee bit of Osmond, but as you say, Jamie, you want to see more. You want to be a bit excited. Tierney, we've known's coming, and it's great to see him. Negrin's been decent enough in the sort of fleeting appearance he's got, but we don't want to see the same players again and again, and that's what we seem to be getting. But it's not even that. We're chipping away at the quality again, and we're leaving the lesser and lesser players, and guys like Cameron Carter-Vickers aren't there. It just seems like I don't know why I do it to myself in pre-season. I hype myself up for these games and then remember what they're like, and then I hype myself up thinking, do you know what, we might do our business early and there's plenty of players coming in. Look what Liverpool are doing, look what Arsenal are doing, Celtic might do that, and we get to it here, and no, Celtic don't do that. They absolutely do not do that.
It's funny you said we're starting to see the same names over and over again. I did think that earlier on when I was on Twitter over the past couple of days, and I've seen Odsonne Edouard's name rise from the ashes. For the record, I don't think there's anything in that at all. But I did just see a lot of interest. I think his contract's up and
a bit of good old-fashioned monitoring the situation.
Yeah,
Is that what's
Celtic
happening
are monitoring the situation. Presumably, we might be monitoring it for any secret release clauses. A lot of nonsense, man. But we're monitoring the situation, and people are like getting on board with it. And it really started a very interesting debate in the Discord about, bring him back. We will not realistically sign anyone better than Odsonne Edouard, so I'm for it. And I was one of the lone voices, like, no, I don't care. I don't care if he's potentially, and it is only potentially, the best footballer I've seen, because if you'd be signing Odsonne Edouard on the proviso that he's going to be the Odsonne Edouard of a couple of years ago, the one that left, but he hasn't really been
now, innit?
Yeah, and he hasn't really been that player for a long time. He's bombed last season anyway, certainly. But moreover than that, I just bored. I want new. I don't want to watch Celtic with McGregor and Forrest and Jota and Odsonne Edouard and Liam Scales and Kieran Tierney. I want some new and interesting.
Brendan Rodgers.
And Brendan Rodgers, yes. And how could I forget? I want some new and interesting players, and I was just dead against any idea of going back once again and bringing back Odsonne Edouard. But it did have me think, Stephen, if on the wider picture for a lot of these players that we've sold, it's kind of emerging that we get good money for our players and we sell them. And Nicholas Kuhn has been the latest one that we got good money for. But whether or not they actually do anything after they leave us there's a big question mark over a lot of these guys. And your Edwards and your Dembele's, and it's easier to pick out the successes. Frimpong, Van Dijk, KT, but the rest of our big sales haven't really done much, have they?
It's before we go on to that, I do totally agree. Yes, there's two ways to look at it. One, that Odsonne Edouard is a brilliant player, or at least was a brilliant player, and could be that again. And also, you think of, we want a Brendan Rodgers team. So what does that mean? Does it mean signing players he's had before years ago? I don't think that's necessarily necessary, really. And the other way is that we've had our fun with this, and we've had our fun with bringing old players back. You can't just continually go down that, because one thing it says, one thing it sort of points towards is, what on earth are the recruitment team doing if we end up with just constant old players coming back through the door? There's another angle to the dream that we sell players is that, look, come to Celtic, we promise you this brilliant football environment where the fans will absolutely love you. As long as you're working hard for the fans, they'll get right behind you. Mm-hmm. You'll have Champions League nights, you'll have 60,000 fans. And moreover, we are offering you a gateway into the very top level. You'll be picked up by somebody down south or France or Germany or whatever it is if you show up here. And then you get there and you're looking around the dressing room, and it's like, there's a lot of players who tried that and have now come back on severe wage cuts 2 years later. So it's a bit of an odd message.
The players the players are always back themselves. I've got no problem with the Celtic message. I've got no problem with what Celtic are doing. We provide, and I will probably come to this when we're talking about the signings this season, we provide the platform, we provide the training, we provide the managers, we provide the coaches and the facilities to turn you into, say, a Premier League footballer. And then once you leave, it's up to yourself to make a go of that. But I'm just wondering more so from like the club's point of view, will they start to look at Celtic and look, Celtic got Astria producing decent players, and we're quite happy to go buy them. But really, we need to be careful, because we might have a bit of buyer's regret here, because they don't always fulfill their promise or price tag.
Yeah, that's true for a lot of them. There's different circumstances behind them all, isn't it? The Jota thing was just Saudi Arabian money coming in, and then it was just chaos that summer. And you see most of the players that have went out there have came back, but other players who you're maybe looking at going, well, what's happened there? Matt O'Reilly's probably the one, but he went, and I remember watching his first game, and some guy chopped him within minutes, and he went off injured. I always talked about how Matt O'Reilly was available for every single game at Celtic, and then he goes there and he's on his debut, he gets chopped down. So it's been stop-start for him, but they've let go of João Pedro now, so he'll probably see more game time for him. Or like there's teams like Roma and all that have been interested in him, so he'll probably get a decent move if he doesn't stay there. But there has been some players where you go, it's not quite worked out. It's usually the sort of forward players, whether it be Edward or Dembele. So
Even
there is a
Kyogo,
bit of
when he
a,
went to Rennes, it just didn't work out for him either.
yeah. But again, circumstances behind that. January, the manager's in a relegation battle. He's on a sugary peg, and he goes a couple of weeks later. Terrible move, but that one didn't. That was a weird one because you could see from afar it was probably not going to work out. So there is something in it, but look, Celtic just have to keep producing players and hoping they can do it. Once they leave, it's up to them. But as well, like you say, Jamie, it's brilliant having Jota back because he's the best winger I've seen at Celtic in years, if not ever. Kieran Tierney, homegrown player and all that. But we can't keep doing this and just where does it end?
So ungrateful, aren't we?
I know.
Where does it
Some of
end?
the best players we've ever seen, but enough's enough. But you're right, where does it end? Well, yeah.
Because even Edward, you could make a fight. Well, is he the best since Larsson? But it's just that, right? Okay, see if it was one or a player or something. But if we're going to end up with half the team we used to had this summer, you have to ask, like, do we just bin the recruitment then and just hope that players don't work out and just bring them back?
You could understand Brendan's inclination to get some of these players back because because the recruitment has been a bit iffy.
Yeah,
and he knows what he's getting with like an Odsonne Edouard, and he knows what he's getting with some of these players, and he'd probably be happy to get them back. But the recruitment this year, we were speaking last time we did a podcast, all three of us. I was talking a bit about how I think there's like a two-stage transfer system going on at Celtic, and how now that Brendan's back, we'll probably see that ramp up a wee bit. And it kind of did, and it kind of didn't. We signed Inamura, who came in, and Brendan immediately said, him? He's on loan.
Never heard him.
this season shredding it.
And it was such an unusual sort of reaction to signing a footballer. But I think, in my mind, the way it works at Celtic is, the club have got this model of developing footballers, and that's probably linked to agent contacts they've got and things like that. And basically what happens is the club bring these players in, and Brendan might get final say on them. He says he gets final say. Whether he does or doesn't, who knows? But what that final say might amount to is, Brendan, can you watch this video we've put together of this guy? His numbers, his profile sitting on your desk. Have a wee look at it. Let us know if you can work with him. And then as soon as he arrives at the club, Brendan decides whether he goes to the B team, whether he stays, or whether he goes on loan. So it's not really necessarily every time Brendan says, yes, I'll take him, does Brendan mean, yes, I'll take him, ... into the first team. And a lot of these players really are looking like development players. With KT aside, there's nobody, Melly, that you're looking at going, he's definitely going to start games for Celtic.
No, nobody at all. Negrin probably the closest, but even then, it doesn't look like an out-and-out winger, and he played through the middle when he came on, so we're still in need of two wingers, because Brendan said he wanted one if everybody stayed, and now Kuhn's away, so you'd
Brendan, who said famously, I'm not going to put a number on things, and every single time he's asked, is happy to put a number on how many players he wants.
But I think, from my point of view anyway, what I've seen over the summer is, it does look like there's a bit of strategy behind what Celtic are doing now. So we've brought in Callum Osmond, we've brought in Tierney, and we've brought in Negrin. And these are all guys like Tierney, that was probably opportunistic. He's coming back to Celtic because it's Celtic. But with the other guys we've signed and the guys we're looking at, it does look like Celtic are looking at players who are in the last year of their contract, which means if they come to Celtic and are good players, you've got a player for less or nothing than you would have expected. So Negrin, if he was going and he'd 3 years in his contract, you'd expect Celtic to have to pay 3 million, 4, 5 million, whatever. But they've got him for 1.5 because of the way his contract is. So it's unlikely you're going to make a loss on that guy. You're either going to get a good player, or if it doesn't...
It's encouraging, isn't it, when you're buying footballers and the pros, you've written out the pros and cons, and the top of the table is, well, we probably won't lose any money on him.
But
Jesus.
As much as you laugh them out, this is something we need to look at, because if we look at Celtic over the past couple of seasons, we have done really well at selling players. We sold Mikey Johnston for £3 million. We sold Bosun Lowell for money. We've got rid of Bernabe. We've got rid of O. These guys probably weren't on massive wages. We've either not made much of a loss on them and we've managed to sell them on. And that's a lot of money to bring in. We were laughing at Rangers not making 300,000 last season. Celtic brought in tens of million on guys that weren't contributing to the team. So if Negrin comes in, if Osmond comes in, if Inamura, if Balak Wisha comes in, he's got a year left in his deal. We've been linked to a couple of centre-halves that have got a year left in their deal. We're probably getting players for cheaper than market value. And if they work out, we've got good players. If they don't, we can sell them on. And it looks like we've got that sort of strategy, because if you look across Europe, like clubs like Chelsea, Man City, they're selling players that don't contribute to their first team at all for a lot of money, and we are maybe just filtering that down a bit and doing it in our own way, because it has to be something we have to do, because we need to keep bringing in money, and it can't just be selling a player for 15 million, selling a player for 25 million. If we've got a strategy to go out and get guys who don't have a lot of time left in their contract, they're either good or we sell them on, or they're good and we sell them on for profit. It's a good way to go about it. We were going to sit here and we'll probably slate Celtic's recruitment, but at least with this bit, it does look like they've changed strategy a bit and they are thinking about something.
That's a lot of words for skint tramps who are afraid of the richest club in the universe, Timmy.
Well,
so
it's okay. Listen, Stephen, we're the underdogs this year, so that's I like a good underdog story. This thing about the players in the last year of the contract, though, Stephen, it's on the face of it is good. I'm like, that's quite clever, actually. You're going out and you're identifying talented footballers who, with a year left on their contract, are obviously maybe trying to weigh up their options, and then a big club like Celtic come along and we sort of scoop them up.
Yeah,
but just at the back of my mind, I feel like there's a hole in that logic somewhere that I've not figured out, because I'm playing it through my head, right, okay, so Celtic have discovered something here. But is it easier to get footballers in the last year of their contract? Why are these guys all in the last year of their contract? Is it because they want to presumably they want to leave at some point? I'm just a wee bit worried that what we think on the face of it is a transfer masterstroke. We might discover, oh, actually, this is why all these guys are at Celtic in the first place. It doesn't mean they're necessarily better footballers for cheaper money. Just because we're selling players at the level of Odin Thiago Holm, just because he's in the last year of his contract, it doesn't mean he's going to be any better for us. It just means he's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I suppose you would have to, looking at it charitably, I suppose what you could look at it, or a way you could look at it, is that the reason that they're in the last year of their contract is because, kind of like Greg Taylor, I suppose we've just experienced here, is they've just decided, look, it's a new challenge for me, and I'm not going to sign a new contract that puts me at a negotiation disadvantage when it comes to getting a move, because lo and behold, a club like Celtic come in for me because they see the potential in there and they don't have to part with a big fee. They might just have smart agents who think, well, just kind of hold your horses here. There's no need to be signing long-term contracts when I'll get you a move next summer. So I think that's...
Sorry, Steve, we see it a lot. Like Trent Alexander-Arnold, Kylian Mbappe have all went for free transfers recently. The thing is,
Celtic missed out on both. It's an absolute disgrace. Yeah,
missed out slugs. These guys are waiting up, seeing their options, and probably speaking to clubs a long year in advance, going, do you know what? The option's there for you if you come to it. So I think it is happening across football that players are wanting to see what their options are, because the transfer fees have become so daft now that you're better off not signing these deals.
Does it not stand to, does that, if that's becoming the thing, then does the logic not stand that that'll soon happen to Celtic? So next year, or the year and a half or whatever, instead of people wanting to sign Nicholas Kuhn for £16 million, they'll just wait until he starts to get into the latter stage of his contract?
Oh, Celtic don't give out anything less than 5 years.
Well, that's it, yeah. I forgot about that. That's the genius of it. It's like, listen, if you want to pick this guy up in a bargain, you're going to have to do it when he's 33 years old, because we've got him on a 5 or a 6 year deal.
Oh, we're absolutely. I feel much better about the transfer strategy now. We're absolutely nailing this. We've got it covered from all angles.
Do you think it's linked at all, Stephen, to Brendan Rodgers' reluctance to commit? This sort of, listen, we're not going to push the boat out and get anyone massively expensive here. Low risk, low downside signings, and last year their contract, as Melly says, that if it goes pear-shaped, their agents will probably be able to move them on for at least what we paid for them, and that'll do us the now until we get a bit of clarity on Brendan Rodgers.
Oh man, this
Stephen McGowan wrote it in his
did.
most recent article.
I think
it's worth looking out.
he described it as buyer's remorse that Celtic are displaying just now, and talking about signings like Ida and Engels now that they haven't. I mean, these have been complicated issues that we've spoken about for an entire season now, but Ida and Engels have been, to one degree or another, a success. It's just they've not been like mind-blowing 20 million combination worth of success.
Do you know what I'd say to anyone with those complaints though, Stephen? So if you were sitting with the Michael Nicholsons or anyone on the Celtic board, they'd go, look, we spent 18 or 20 million pound on two players who have just been okay. I'd say that's fine. But see the 20 million you spent on those two players, those guys have contributed orders of magnitude more than the 25 million euros you spent on 7 players who are all out on loan at other clubs.
So again, the age-old issue, isn't it?
It is.
And why did they cost that? Because you waited to the last week.
Yeah.
There was nowhere else to go, was there?
So it's the minute Brendan Rodgers came back to the club, signed a 3-year contract, and all along was talking about how I'm definitely going to be here for 3 years unless I'm emptied, right? And the minute this happened, this circus was always rolling into town, and here it is. We've been ignoring it the whole time. We knew it was coming 3 years in, or 2 years in rather. As soon as we entered the third season, this was going to happen. We're all kind of looking around and saying, can anybody hear elephants? No, ignore it, forget about it, it's fine. But here it is, it's rolled into town, and it's going to be, as I say, like a circuit. It's going to be a tedious affair for the foreseeable future, because will Brendan Rodgers stay? And if not, what's the point in spending? As if that's logical. I mean, that's ludicrous for a football club. But again,
I really hope we're not going to go down that road again, honestly.
Don't sign Brendan Rodgers players, whatever that means, and because the manager's not going to be here long term. And again, we find ourselves is that it's so very, very Celtic. This just wind ourselves or kick the can down the road every couple of seasons, give the manager full control of absolutely everything, and then we end up in bother when that manager either A, gets into the last year of his contract, which is now, ups and leaves like Ange Postecoglou and Brendan Rodgers the first time around, just leaving us in complete disarray. And it's why maybe people can't really be bothered hearing about it. It's why we're constantly droning on about Celtic modernising and fixing their football structure. There's nothing. Again, people just shout trophies. Yes, but again, it's not sustainable. That getting to this kind of bother every single time a manager thinks about or could potentially leave the club, where you just upset the apple cart every single time.
I hear you, and I hear that argument quite a lot. And there's two things I would say to that. Is one, is it not fair enough for the Celtic board to go, look, Brendan, you seriously can't twist our arm up our back and expect us to pay £11 million for this winger if you won't tell us whether or not you're going to be here next season? Because if he's no signals intent to the Celtic board, I think he was asked about it, he says, we'll touch base on it, but there's been no solid talks. Well, realistically, it's no a realistic... What were you going to say? Sorry, Millie, you wanted to cut in there. I don't want to talk too long and not give you the opportunity to address it.
That's all right. It just doesn't make sense to me. So we're not buying these players for one season. So the best players under Ange are still at Celtic and are good, great players under Brendan Rodgers. So if Brendan Rodgers says...
But none of them were very, very expensive. And it's a money thing. I think the issue is it's a money thing. So you're right in what you're saying, but we're still spending the £3 and the £4 million now. And the club in theory are saying, look, we're happy to do that. What we're not going to do is push the boat out to the 8, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 million pounds players that you particularly need. Obviously, this is all hypotheticals, but if it is the case that Brendan wanted another Engels and says, look, you need to push the boat out for this guy, I could perfectly understand the board saying, look, you need to tell us if you're staying or going.
I get it from that point of view, but they're going to be a Celtic player. They're not going to be a Brendan Rodgers player. So if Celtic are willing to spend £6-7 million on a player, I don't think Brendan Rodgers is identifying players. So what the scouting network should be doing is saying to him, what about these players? He'll pick one out and then he'll go to the board and it'll work whatever way it works. So if they think this is going to be a good player, they should think that's going to be a good player, a good investment for 2, 3, 4 years. If not, we sell them on after 2 years. So why do we go about this bit in the middle where we're going about the manager's not going to be here? But if Brendan Rodgers isn't here come next season, are we going in and bringing a manager who's going to play a massively different style of football to Brendan Rodgers? Well, not because it's Celtic.
But you're talking about shoulds and woulds and coulds, and what I'm talking about is the reality of the situation. And
it's a bit Celtic run it as a business, so surely the business model should be: is this what's best for the business, whether the manager stays or not?
But there is such a thing as internal politics in any business,
Aye.
and Brendan Rodgers, look, we don't know, but you do hear that, you know, from anyone. This is the problem. You say, oh, you hear this, and people say, oh, well, for who? Well, it's everywhere that Brendan Rodgers put pressure on the board to sign Engels Reader. That's been in newspapers, it's been in rumours, it's been on podcasts, it's been everywhere. So we know that happens. And my point is, if the board, call it what you want, the board broke their transfer rules for those two players, Brendan can't seriously expect that to happen again. If he won't even tell them aye or no, oh, I've not made my mind up. You've not made your mind up if you're going to be here in 8 months. What are you talking about, Brendan? We need to know if you're going to be it. Or if he's not made his mind up, the board are like, cool, well, with all due respect, what we're going to do is we're just going to no break our transfer rules. We're going to just play within the boundaries and guidelines we've set ourselves. And I know we have this conversation about directors of football as if that's some cure-all that's going to prevent this. It's not. Loads of clubs have directors of football. Loads of clubs change a manager, and that new manager comes in and signs 8 players because he doesn't like the players that he's got. It's happening at Ibrox right now. They've got a director of football. They had a much lauded one before. They've binned him, they've shelled him, got another much lauded one, and now they've signed 8 or 6 players. So the director of football doesn't insulate you from a new manager coming in and going, I want to completely change the way we play. So I do get it. And there's conversations about whether you want Brendan Rodgers to stay. I read with interest that in Stephen's article, he said basically you need to back Brendan or you're going to lose him. If they need to start spending some of this money that they've got, if the name of the game is to keep the manager. And that's the bit I disagree with, Stephen. I see you making a face there. The name of the game isn't keeping the manager. You don't spend mega bucks just to keep Brendan Rodgers. You spend if Celtic's, in my mind, if Celtic's usual transfer rule is like 3 or 4 million quid, tickle that up a wee bit.
Yeah. And look,
Stephen, I think you may have touched your microphone there. You're super loud.
That's still there. Right, so the thing is, it's obviously a very difficult situation to manage because it's a 3-year contract. Everyone knew that. As I say, there was no surprises about that. That was announced on day one, and he said he was going to be here for the 3 years. So why do we have to operate purely on the assumption that he's either going to be here for like 7 years or it's not worth doing? You have to kind of, if you've got a manager on a 3-year contract, you have to operate for that 3 years. You can't just give up after year 2 and think, well, he's not telling us if he's going to be here. But
maybe the club are. Maybe they're saying, well, Brendan, we're working on the assumption that you're leaving next year, so we're not prepared to break the bank for any players. We're just going to work within the business model that we've established that we think works for us.
But he is contractually obligated to work for Celtic for the next season, so everyone else has to operate under those terms as well. You can't, again, it's frustrating and it's difficult to even articulate the frustrations with it because it's just, as I say, it's very, very Celtic to operate in these terms. But if you've got a manager for 3 years, you have to support him for that 3 years.
I get it, and I'm not. Yeah. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Like the notion that we would find the next Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi at the age of 17 or 15 or whatever, and everyone in the building going, we need to sign this guy. He's 9 million quid, but he's going to be a generational talent. And Mick Nick going, well, we don't know if Brendan's going to be here next year, so we're not going to do it. If Brendan lets us know, then maybe we'll discuss it. That's ludicrous. We should be signing the best. Celtic's transfer model should be quite simply, is he the best player for that position we can afford? That's it. And I was reminded of a Peter Lawwell comment when I was reading the Stephen McGowan article, Melly. Remember, there's no pile of cash. Every penny is reinvested in the club. There's no pile of cash that we can go and look and touch. Right. And I thought, and obviously there is now, some of that is probably contingency for the way things might go with the Champions League and, you know, losing out in that qualification. But I am very nervous about, about the sort of this transfer model. Yeah, we're getting these players cheaper because they're in the last year of their contract. But they're still £1.5 million players. They're still £2 million footballers. Negrin cost us what, £1.5 million, more or less. I don't care what year of your contract you're in. It's going to, if he turns out to be as close to Nicholas Kuhn or any sort of, if he turns out to be a first team starter for Celtic for £1.5 million, I will shake the hand of whoever found them. Because there are not many bidding wars for top footballers where the winning bid is £1.5 million, no matter
Right.
what year of your contract you're in.
But that's what I meant by saying earlier. If he had 3 years on his contract, he wouldn't be worth that. He'd
Be worth £2 million.
2 or 3 times that. But this is Celtic have
£3 million.
I know, but it's still double. Do you see Celtic go out and getting that?
I get your point, but
I mean, I'm really worried about it as well, because it's not just this, but we've seen this happen before. Yet we're in this situation again. Why? We all knew it was going to come at this point. Why are we operating like this? And like you said about the director of football isn't a be all and end all. It's not going to sort you for everything. But see, once Brendan Rodgers goes, which is likely at the end of this season, we can't do that again with managers, what we've been doing, what we're now doing with players, because at some point you're going to have to try something different. You're going to have to go for a young up-and-coming manager, a young coach, and try and maybe get somebody who's on the way up, rather than getting lucky with maybe with Ange, or pulling on the fact that Brendan Rodgers and Neil Lennon are Celtic fans. You're going to have to go and get somebody completely out with that. And if somebody looks at Celtic and goes, look, they've been very successful, right, what about the transfer strategy? How does your operations work? And if a young coach is looking at that and going, there's no structure behind me, it's basically me doing it all, that doesn't work anymore. And I know there's only certain managers of a certain age or a certain vintage that are going to come in and want that. Other managers are going to be coaches now that come in and coach players.
You're wrong though, aren't you? You're wrong on that.
You're going to get Ange, aren't we?
No, it's not all on Brendan. The complaint is the opposite. The complaint is there's all these players arriving who have been scouted by who knows where, brought into the club, and the manager doesn't have enough say over them. So there's a structure. There's definitely a structure there, and there's definitely things that go on behind the scenes. But the complaint would never be, I'm going to arrive here myself and it's all on me. The complaint would be, I saw what happened to the last guy. He doesn't get much say in the players he wants. There's a real club-driven business mentality there that they're determined to be too clever by half and find the cheapest, most bargain basement players and hope they can turn a coin on them. That would be any manager's worry about coming to Celtic. It wouldn't be it's all on me and there's no structure there. It would maybe actually be the opposite. There's too much structure. I don't get enough say. Will you back me with the players that I want, the calibre of players that I need, would be the complaint. And again,
that's probably what I mean. It's that quality, isn't it? It's like you're getting all these players, but that's not really the ones I asked for. I asked to go and find me these. I don't think Brendan Rodgers maybe asked for a left centre half. I've not asked for Inamura. So why are you giving
Imagine
me him?
he said that with Inamura standing next to him. No offence, son, but I've not asked for him. He's going
I've
out.
not asked for him.
He's going out.
Sure, you're a lovely boy, right? But I don't know who you are.
I've no idea who he is. Do you think Brendan Soft had done that a wee bit after the game? Because it's funny, when I was watching the Inamura scouting videos, the only thing to me that he looked pretty good at was pinging absolutely delicious balls with that left foot diagonally across the pitch, and he was doing a bit of that in the game as well. And I think I wondered, I wonder if Brendan watched absolutely nothing at all of him until he turned up and he played 45 minutes or whatever he played in that game, and Brendan went, forget what I said about going on loan. There might be a place for you here.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I could fully believe. I mean, we could only really go on Brendan's own reaction to the signing in itself. It was just kind of like, he's not for this first team. But, I mean, there's no necessity for a manager to be. There's no need to be quite so blunt about it. You could say anything. You could say, yeah, we're going to have a look. The plan is to get him developed, minutes in the legs and all that. But the first thing out of his mouth was, no, he's not for the first team. He's the club's development plan, etc. So I could believe that he hasn't seen very much of him at all, and it is just a recruitment, like a recruitment team based signing. I could believe that.
Maybe it's a case of, sorry to talk to you, but I can foresee a situation where he's went, right, find me a left-sided centre back, and that's what's turned up, and he's just signalling to everyone internally and externally, Like, he's not my left-sided centre back.
No.
Whatever you think this guy is, I'm sure you're a lovely lad, but you're not my left-sided centre back.
It was quite prescient of Melly the last time we recorded together. What he said was that, or what you said there was that, look, I want someone who's undeniably better than Scales and Trusty. This guy isn't going to be it. And sure enough, like days later, Brendan Rodgers was like, "Yep, this guy isn't it." So we'll find it later.
Said
Whether
something very
he's
similar
done
about
enough-
Osmond as well.
Yeah,
As blunt. He says we're going to take a look at him and see where he fits in.
Yeah. So whether any of these guys have done anything, again, it feeds back to the very first point we made on this podcast. And this podcast was that look, there's pre-season and there's pre-season. I'm not taking anything away. Brendan Rodgers is certainly not taking anything away from running about against Cork. And who was it? It was Queen's Park was the other one.
Yeah,
and a Portuguese half-decent Portuguese team. So again, whether he's done enough to make him, because I know that this is why we said we're no longer going to respond strongly to pre-season games until they get to the last couple before the season actually starts. It's because the temptation is for hot takes to be baked, and there's just no point in it, because Inamura plays a few nice passes against Queen's Park and Cork or whatever it was, and all of a sudden, right, that's Tierney's understudy taken care of. He slots straight in there. I'm just like, right, we will see. We will see about that. I'm not convinced, but look, the guy looks good on the ball, and I think that's what has emerged from all of the reporting on him. I think Brendan Rodgers, that's what he was surprised about. I described him as smooth on the ball, so that all sounds good. But I think the fear that also, or not so much the fear, but the concern that came out of some of the scouting and some of our own scouting that we got professionally commissioned with Alex from The Athletic, is that the physicality might be a challenge for him just now. And we said that on day one. So whether that has been fully put to bed after a couple of runouts in pre-season, I have my doubts. So that remains a very much we will see on Inamura. I think that when I look across the squad, there is massive work needing done, massive work needing done, and some sort of understudy to Kieran Tierney is going to be a must in there as well. Not convinced that it's going to be Inamura, because I think from what I caught a couple of weeks ago, that's finally the next big thing. Matthew Anderson has been let go permanently, hasn't he? Yeah, so that's another one off the conveyor belt of talent of Lennoxtown. John,
I'm just got his name here, Flavio Nazinho. From Cercle Bruges. That looks like he's going to come in, and I was intrigued by that link because he's an established footballer. I think he was 21-year-old. He's an established footballer, and it did lead me to believe. I wonder if there's going to be a bit more rotation with KT there than we originally thought. I'm not worried though. I'm just watching with curiosity at the moment. I'm not that worried about how things are panning out. There's loads of time left, and I think a lot of
every year we do this. Every single year.
We just tick off the weeks as the
cool as a cucumber, baby. I'm keeping the hail.
Comes hurtling towards our faces. We're just like, nope, that's fine. There's plenty of time to duck out the way of this. We'll be absolutely fine.
Let me tell you how much
wrecking
hail
ball
I'm keeping.
Flying at our face.
Keeping the hail.
Yeah.
Look, remember we made this point a couple of weeks ago about these footballers that everyone knows nothing about. You can just decide whether or not to be positive about it or negative about it. And I think that first of all, Brendan Rodgers, we've been saying this for a year now, but this notion that you can glide through the season and not get asked every week about what's happening with your contract is just fanciful, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So he needs to sign a 1-year rolling deal, and that shuts everyone up for the sake of it. I think also it's early in the transfer window, and players will want to weigh up their options. So I'm convinced we'll get a wee bit more quality in. I think Brendan will get. We'll need to get players in. We need to get players of a quality in. As you see, we might not break the bank. I think Steve McGowan's article sort of the notion of it is that Celtic are not prepared to break the bank while this uncertainty is around Brendan, and I get that, and I don't think we will, but I think we'll get players in.
Well, Stephen said he's looking at the squad and there's a lot of surgery needed. So for me, we need a left back to compete with Kieran Tierney. We need a centre half. We probably need a holding midfielder, but I don't know if Negrin's going to play inside that will maybe do that. We need 2 wingers and we need a striker. And that's all guys to play most of the time.
Yeah.
So more often than not, that's 4 of them you need to be starters. That's a lot of work to do, considering we've got a Champions League qualifier in there as well. So we don't have this up to the end of the window where we can bring players in. We need players to come in and be able to play in a Champions League qualifier, which is going to be a £40 million game
that's
for
the end
Celtic.
of August, isn't it? The qualifier. It's more or less
but
nearly
we
end
didn't
of the
bring
window.
in with the big money we spent last season. Maeda, Engels, Baye, who was the other one, all came in the last week of the window. That's too late for Celtic for these qualifiers,
Yeah.
so we need to get a move on now.
again. We're going to do it all over again. We're going to sign 8 players in the last week, and then
But they won't be as good as the players we were going to sign the week before, because we're not in the Champions League
they're
now.
all going to be slightly underwhelming, and we're going to get to September, October, November, and we're all going to be talking about, wait till these boys get a pre-season under them for next season. If they're going to be fully fit and firing come next season.
It is this. I don't want to be an absolute downer about it, but the chipping away at the quality, the phrase Melly uses, it's even Brendan said, right, I lost Kudo, I lost Kyogo. That's a lot of goals out of the team, and I'm thinking, we're never replacing those goals. I'd be astonished. I would be maybe would. I don't know. I just. You get your work cut out, you try to replace that many goals. I think Brendan's been a wee bit cheeky there, but I am interested. I'm watching with interest anyway to see how Celtic on. Are you interested? Did you pick up your tickets for the Newcastle friendly?
No.
Sorry, Adidas.
No.
Super duper.
Oh, yeah. The friendly. I think you'll find it's a hotly contested, massive trophy on the
You
line.
going, Melly?
No, I was down in Newcastle recently, and it was brilliant. Just everybody just wears a Newcastle top, and they're all just so passionate about it. So I did think, do you know what? It might not be the worst. They're going to bring a big crowd, but then I was like, no, I'm not giving into this. I'm not being charged £25 for something I should have for nothing. It's an absolute scandal, man. An absolute scandal that this is happening.
Stephen, you're not going, are you?
No. I decided.
Fake fans.
Yeah. Prawn Sandwich Brigade only get on for the big games. I decided years ago I can't be bothered with friendlies because they're not completely worthless. As I say, they'll be good for having a look at the team, and as I say, it's at that point again. I want to be clear about what I said earlier about pre-season friendlies. They do start to matter, but the results don't. Right? It is the nature of them, and it's how you play. There's no way that Celtic turn up for the first game of the season, first league game, and that's it. You've hit the real football button. You've not practiced anything. It's purely about fitness. Everyone's looking about saying, we've not practiced any of this. Oh, that was all it was all just minutes in the legs, guys. Don't worry about it. We'll figure a way out. No, clearly, I'm being facetious. You do practice your tactics in these games. So I will be interested to see them. And it's good for it's good for people to get along. Maybe it's good for kids to go along to these friendlies. If you make, especially for people who
£25 a bloody ticket.
Yeah, but we're looking at it very much from the point of view of people who have season tickets and are being asked to pay that on top of that. It's a good opportunity for people to get to Celtic Park, maybe with the kids or maybe with relatives, whatever, who don't often get up.
With us getting a free ticket as well, but Stephen, there's 10,000 tickets going.
But that's it. But I'm just separating the two things and saying that it's not like a completely worthless exercise to put the game on. It is a good opportunity for people to get along to a game who might not necessarily get to any for the rest of the season. See some good players hopefully
the Newcastle team.
yeah. Well, that's it. You don't get to see Jacob Murphy and sort of Dan Byrne every week. So Newcastle are a good team. They might lose Isak, but then right enough, I have Liverpool are in for them. But I'll not be going because I can't be bothered with friendlies because I find that it's kind of like with Legends games that all the fun is in finding out who's playing in it.
Yeah.
You think, oh, it's that guy. And then you actually see them playing and you think, oh, no.
I feel like Brendan doesn't really take his friendly lineups that seriously as well. There's a lot of B team players tend to feature in these. Have you bought any merch? I saw the Celtic, the new away kit was out. Melly, tempted?
I don't know. I'm going to see the free strips up close and see which one I'll maybe go for. But to be honest, since not even a renewed, it just feels like everything that comes out of Celtic is trying to get more money out of you, whether it's
that's all they use their Twitter for now, isn't it? It's all they use their social platforms.
This
really.
Newcastle game before the season ticket renewal had even been out, renewing your season ticket and finding out you don't get any game on it and you'll not get a European game. Then you've had your home strip, you've had your third strip, you've had the away strip, and then there's all sorts of training gear. I'm
Yeah,
like,
hold on. I just want to show you. I bought something.
This is going to make for
Yeah.
good podcasting here.
lovely stuff,
Man gets out of seat to go. Yeah, I'll just fill for the 10 seconds or so. Jamie's
Just reach
away. There
behind
he is.
me. There you go. See, I bought the
third kit.
no. It's what is this? The warm up jersey.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
the pre-match. Is that because you're an influencer, Jamie? Is it, you're going for that match?
That's
I
quite
quite like
smart.
that. Do you know?
Aye, it's
I
good,
quite
isn't
like
it?
that. Aye.
Up close, it's decent.
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw people were slagging it. Inspired by the Glasgow music scene, obviously,
Of
or
course,
whatever, or
of
gig
course.
tickets or flyers or something. I thought that was pretty decent. That's probably the best thing we've brought out this year so
Yeah.
far.
The social media response to all these drops of merch has been hilarious, man. People are just absolutely sick of it. People just like every single reply is just sign players, sign players, sign players, and even like some just like typical Celtic fleecing the fans again. Where I would interject there is that look, one, they need a third kit. That's basically a sort of must these days. You have to have a third kit, and Celtic are not bringing out kits to fleece the fans. It's a contract with Adidas. You need to pump out merch because they're paying millions in order to use the license for Celtic gear to punt gear to people. We have to do that because we've made a deal with that manufacturer for millions of pounds that they pay up front, and you need to sell it to people. That's just a fact of it.
The third kit, which has been nicknamed Coleslaw in the Discord, I think is one of the worst things they've ever released. I do think we are sort of. I mean, I don't. As we've said before, you either just decide whether you like the strip or you don't. There's not much else that goes into it. I know there's a lot of online discourse about it, and people pretending to like it or people pretending to hate it, whatever. I think there was a lot of talk though last year about how excitement about Celtic becoming an Adidas elite team.
Right.
Celtic are going to be an Adidas elite team. But all that means is Adidas are going to produce more stuff with the Celtic badge on it. So
Yeah.
there was hype
Yeah.
about becoming in this group of Adidas elite clubs. Cool. Well, this is that we've got warm up tops, which you probably had every year. They've got international training gear, which was released today as well, which is like black with green piping.
That's nice.
That's decent enough. And then they've got this away kit, which actually looks pretty good, inspired apparently by the shirt that Henrik Larsson broke his leg in.
Yeah.
Why they got him back for that advert
Inspired by it, yet
is beyond me.
see if you're going to
Inspired by many people of our age, the worst moment of their not quite childhood, but the worst moment of 20 odd years ago now. Yeah,
Jesus.
inspired by that chilling moment for us all.
Why does it need to be inspired by? Why not just make it very similar? Because it's just the colours they've taken.
Yeah.
That one had a collar, and this one doesn't have any sort of collar around it. It's got a weird neckline on it, so I don't get it. But look, football strips aren't for us.
Melly, it's marketing fluff.
It is marketing fluff. But we know football strips aren't for us, but just been to a couple of festivals and things over the summer. It's littered with football strips. That is a fashion item now. People wear it out and about all the time. It's probably what most people will wear out to festivals and stuff. So if Celtic are trying to angle towards that, that's fine because that's where you're going to
That's
get
it.
the sales in
Is
there.
it?
So it's no for us, but I just don't see that corresponding either because I don't think that third strip, I've not seen it up close. It's either I'm going to think it's a cracker or it's terrible. If you're aiming for that, surely you want to get something that everybody likes and
Something that's good.
it appeals to everybody, but I just don't get that.
We're out
with
of
these
touch.
strips.
We are out of touch. No, it's just us. We're out of touch. There's been as you say, Melly, there's been a mindset shift for me recently, and it was Stephen that pointed out it's just a fashion item. It's just
Aye.
designed to be worn at festivals and all that. That's all it is. And I
Look
think
at the
that's
video for that strip today. It's got all musicians in it and all that. That's what the aim is, to get it to mix in with that.
Aye,
So,
to be worn over hoodies and stuff like that. A lot of the imagery is people wearing it when they're hanging about with their pals and stuff like that. That's clearly the market that's been aimed at. It's like people. I think in general people just need to calm down about it because you can set your watch by these strip drops or merch drops just being littered with. Why can't it just be like this and it's pictures of the Lisbon Lions? You're like, because it just can't. It can't be that 3 times every year, I'm afraid.
I know. Listen, on that bombshell, we shall wrap up. Thank you very much for your continued support on Patreon. It's season ticket renewal time, so check that out if you want to save yourself some money and get a lovely thank you gift. We will reveal all very, very soon. Patreon.com/20minutetims if you're listening to this later on with adverts, because you can get it ad-free on Patreon. If you want to join us for this season, it is worthwhile, let me tell you that. Absolutely fantastic. Melly, Stephen, we shall reconvene in a couple of days for some extra
Indeed.
content for the guys.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you for watching, and we'll speak to you very soon.